With the press of this one button, this remote control will turn on my projector, it'll tell my screen to rise, it'll turn on my surround sound receiver, and will even turn on my NVIDIA Shield. On top of that, it's going to change everything to the right input so that it's a very seamless transition and anyone can use my system. It's pretty amazing. This is the Sofabaton X1 remote control. This is a universal remote control, but it's not like a typical universal remote control that you're thinking of. This does consolidate all of your remote controls into one, but it also adds the addition of these activities. When you buy this remote control, you can create these activities that tailor to your specific system and what you like to use it for. So I can add all the devices that are used within the activity of Watch Shield TV, and when I turn it on, it'll do things like turn on my projector, turn on the screen like you saw here, and it's going to turn on my receiver and my NVIDIA Shield. And the great thing about this is the remote control now works the way that I want it to. The volume button actually controls my AV receiver, while the rest of the buttons can control the NVIDIA Shield. Now when we look at the remote control, it's going to look like a normal remote control, but it's actually not. The remote control doesn't really control anything. In fact, what actually controls it is the hub. So what you'll get inside the box is, of course, the remote control and this X1 hub. Now, this hub can control one of three different types of devices. It can control an IR device, which is infrared. That means you point your remote control actually at it. Think of like your surround sound receiver and some televisions. Now, a lot of televisions and things like the NVIDIA Shield have gone to a Bluetooth remote control, meaning that you can point your remote control anywhere and it will just work. So it does control Bluetooth devices as well. And finally, it does control a very few Wi-Fi devices as well. The remote control isn't a true remote control in the essence that it's not putting out IR signals or anything like that. It's just sending a signal to the hub. And that's kind of cool about that is that means that you can also use things like a tablet or a phone to control your system. You don't have to use the remote control that comes with it. In fact, in order to set this up, you're actually going to use your phone or some type of device like a tablet. You're going to want to download the Sofabaton app from the App Store, and you're going to start looking for your devices. Now, the first thing you want to do is figure out what type of device it is, whether it's an IR or Bluetooth device. And once you do that, you're just going to look for the name of the device and add it into the system. Now you're going to do that for every device that you have. So for me, I did it for my screen, which is a Vivid Storm screen, which it did have in the system. It did have my receiver and it had my NVIDIA Shield. Unfortunately, it didn't have my projector, and that's because my projector is brand new onto the market. In fact, you can't buy it yet. It's actually on Kickstarter. So because of that, it didn't have any of those remote control codes. Thankfully, Sofabaton does allow you to learn those codes. So since this is an IR remote control, I can just take it over to the Sofabaton hub, hold it a few inches away, and start learning each and every one of those codes. And that's fantastic because now my entire remote control is now downloaded to the Sofabaton. So if I were to ever lose the remote control or for some reason it get destroyed or broken, I can now control my projector with my system, whether it be my phone or the actual remote control itself. Now, something to note about the IR remote control, because this is a hub that blasts IR, it does have IR blasters on them, and it has a total of 3. Now, you can extend that. In fact, I extended mine. And some people say, well, what if I need a little bit longer length? Well, keep in mind that some of my equipment's in the very back of my room, and some of my equipment, like my new projector, is in the very front. You can just use a 3.5 millimeter extension to extend that. And that's what I did to extend both my screen and my projector to work. Now, if you need more IR sensors, you could just buy a device like this. Now, after you get all of your devices added in there and you have all of your IR sensors on, it's time to add an activity. Now, activities are pretty neat. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to pick the devices that are being used in the activity. So, for example, when I watch my NVIDIA Shield, I'm going to want my NVIDIA Shield to be on, but I don't want my Xbox. So I'm going to pick like NVIDIA Shield, I'm going to pick my projector, I'm going to pick my screen, and of course my receiver. And anything else, I'm going to leave off. And that will then ask me how I have this set up. It's going to ask me which input I need to change it to. When I turn this activity on, it will change to those right inputs. And then I'm also going to go ahead and select what I want to control the volume. In this particular case, I want the surround sound receiver to control the volume. And there might be some cases where you have a different unit that controls the volume. No problem. You would just select that here. Then all the other buttons are going to be added for the NVIDIA Shield. Now, same thing happens when I go to watch my 3D. I set it up exactly the same, except this time I select my Xbox instead of my NVIDIA Shield, and I set it up. Now, you might take a look at it and say, well, there's certain buttons that I need that aren't on here. And this is what's really neat about the Sofabaton that I really like. So it does look like it has limited buttons on there, and there is not a lot of buttons, which actually makes it easier to navigate, but does seemingly give you less buttons to work. However, what you don't know is that most of these buttons can actually be doubled up on. So for example, if I hold down the middle OK button, I can actually create a new button. So I can use this to give a function of another remote control, maybe my surround sound receiver or my Ultimate projector or something else. And so a lot of these can do that. But what I've actually done is when I watch 3D, I've actually hold down this OK button and it does a macro. So what's really cool is when I go to my Ultimate projector to turn 3D on, it doesn't have a 3D dedicated button. Instead, I have to press my menu, I have to go over, I have to hit select, and I have to go down like 10 times, select it again, go down like 16. There's like 30 button clicks to turn my 3D on. But I can create a macro that goes through all those button pushes for me, and all I have to do now is just hold that one button down for about a second, and then it's going to go through all of those for me, so I don't ever have to do it again. So I've done that to put my projector into 3D mode, and I've also done that on a few other things that I thought were very beneficial. Now, what some people might use this for, and where I think this might be very useful, is if you have like a Roku or an NVIDIA Shield, you could actually design a macro to actually open the app that you want. And that's what I find really, really exciting, because unfortunately, with a lot of your basic remote controls, the apps that you want aren't actually on the remote control. And well, that could be problematic. Now, another thing that I really appreciated about the Sofabaton remote control is its battery system. Instead of having replaceable batteries, it actually has a battery inside here. You just use a USB-C charger. Now, this does come with a USB-C cable. You just plug it in and it will charge. I haven't had any issues with it ever dying on me yet. But even if it did, I just have to plug this into the USB port on my recliner and I'd be ready to go again. Now, this remote control's been out for a while and has been one of the replacements that a lot of people have tried to go to after their Harmony remote controls died. And that's because Logitech closed the doors on the beloved Harmony remote controls a few years ago. And so Sofabaton has been trying to take the baton from Harmony, and it's been pretty neat to watch. But when it first came out, there were a little bit of kinks in it and some things to work out. And one of the things I really appreciate about Sofabaton is they don't have necessarily a ton of competition in this market, and yet they're still working on this remote to try to make it better all the time. But there are some things that you probably want to know about before you go out and buy this. So for example, when I first looked at the screen, I actually thought it was a touch screen. It's not. You actually use that ball in the middle to scroll down and actually select it. Not a big issue, but something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind too is a lot of people want to use this for home integration, meaning that they want to integrate it with their smart systems. So you can actually use your assistant, whether that be Google Assistant or Amazon Assistant, and it actually has quite a bit of functionality to use that type of voice control. You can tell it to turn on and off pieces of equipment, and you can even tell it to start an activity for you. Having said that, it doesn't have full smart home integration, at least not that I've figured out. So you're not going to be controlling your Amazon Alexa lights with the remote control. It's not going to do that. I'd love to see more development on that. One of the other issues that I found with this is the lack of a microphone or microphone button. A lot of these newer apps have voice control in the essence of being able to search for your favorite shows by using your voice. Unfortunately, with Sofabaton, there's no way to integrate that with the physical remote control. Other than that, I've been very happy with the Sofabaton X1 remote control. In fact, I liked it so much that I ordered a second one for my downstairs entertainment room. Well, my living room. And so I really like this. In fact, it's the best universal remote control that I've found on the market today. So if you've been looking for one of these all-in-one remote control replacements, take a look at the link below. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to buy from that link. It does help the channel out a lot, and it's no cost to you. All right, guys, this is Toyd's DIY Audio, and I'm out.